Okay, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay this morning. This is the October 23rd Policy Committee meeting. I would like to officially call this meeting to order, and we will begin with approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I should say that Mrs. Sturdivant did contact me this morning, and she can't be with us, but we have a majority. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes for September 25th, open session?
Yes.
Okay. Everything look good? We'll
Yes.
approve. I'll accept a motion.
I move that we approve the September 25th, 2019 open session minutes.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will begin with policies here for second review. Policy 1-1, election of Board of Education.
Yes, good morning. This policy went to the board at the October 1st meeting. I've received no requests since then for any revisions by board members or stakeholders, and we would ask that this go to the board for approval on November 5th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that'll take us to policy 1-4, authority to transact business.
This one is the same situation as the one above. I've received no requests for revisions since the board meeting in October, and we request to go to the board on November 5th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Policy 1-3, duties of the Board of Education.
This again is the same as the other two, and we'd ask that it go to the board on November 5th.
So
Okay.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Policy 1-18, appeals.
This again is the same as the others, and we'd ask that it go to the board on 11/5 for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Policy
I just want to say
Oh,
all the
sure.
changes that we had last time were done.
made.
So yes, they were all made.
So when it's second review, it's
Right.
Yes, they were,
cruises pretty fast.
yeah, they were all made before the last board
Yes,
meeting.
exactly.
Policy 1-27, energy conservation program.
Same circumstances again, and we'd ask for it to be approved on 11/5.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And last one for second review is policy 5-6, exceptional children's program.
Same circumstances, and we'd ask it to be approved on 11/5.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we will go to policies being seen for first review, and we'll start with policy 1-23, public records, formerly known as 1-32.
Yes, we're starting to try and renumber them based on that table of contents that we
Awesome.
provided to you previously. And then as soon as we get that all done, we're going to try and get it up on board docs. But
Okay.
we're waiting to have all the things renumbered and everything first. So it's going to take a little bit of time. This policy addresses changes made by the state regarding the destruction of records. So it's a required change, and that's the only change that's done for this policy.
Okay.
We would ask that this go for review at the November meeting.
I have a couple questions and
Sure.
a couple things. The first paragraph under public record defined, a public record is any record in any form that is made or received by the board or its employees in connection with the transaction of public business, period. And then get rid of the word is and start a public record must be available to public. There, it's like some weird run-on sentence.
Sure.
And I can hand you this. My next question is under records officer, who is the records officer?
Right now, the public records are handled by myself and Tahira. So we don't, we've kind of been designated that position.
Okay, so where it says board attorney, it should probably say general counsel or
Sure.
designee.
Sure.
So if you had somebody under you in the law department, you could designate them to review or whatever for the assistance.
Love it.
Okay. On the next page, the legal references, because did it change the legal reference for the North Department of Natural and
Yes.
Cultural. It did, so we need to make that change. And I think that's it.
Are there any other comments or suggestions? Okay.
I move that we send this to the board at the November 5th meeting for first review.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, policy 3-6, staff student relations.
The only revision that we're proposing to this policy is to add the definition of staff and employee volunteers, so that it covers those who are on our campus doing other things as well.
Okay, so I have a question. What's a student employee?
We sometimes, especially over the summers, hire students to work. We've had them work in the testing office, so they're folks who are students who actually do.
And student volunteer.
Internships or
They're actually employed.
Student volunteers go to schools and help out with reading. Okay.
We just wanted to exclude anything that a student might be doing in a more efficient capacity.
So, restrictions on electronic communications. How do you get parental permission to do this? I mean, I have to say that when I read this, I don't like it. So through social media, they can talk to students, or employees are prohibited from communicating with current students through non-school controlled social media without parental permission. So you actually have to get written permission, or how does that happen?
If they were to do it, they would need to get written permission from the parent.
So can we say without written?
Sure.
Okay, so instant messages are treated as a form of communication through social media. But then the next paragraph begins that employees are prohibited from engaging in other forms of one-to-one electronic communications. So social media has all sorts. Snapchat has a messaging system and all that kind of stuff. Are those at odds with each other, or do you think? I guess it kind of stands alone, and I don't know if it goes to the first paragraph or the third paragraph or both.
I think, and that may be.
And you can look at it later.
Yeah, that may be from an earlier time when instant messages
was
was
a big deal.
different. And so
Okay.
we wanted to make sure people understood that was also social media.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had on page 1. On page 2, the last sentence just above reporting inappropriate conduct says that school counselors are excluded from this requirement only to the extent that it conflicts with their professional duties. Why are they excluded? You would think that all of their stuff meets the A, which is communications for educational purpose. But you can look at that later. Those were my 2 questions out of that. And I didn't read it till last night, otherwise I would have asked you.
I guess to your point on that one, I guess the question is, why would we exclude any employee
And
in
there
this
may
situation?
be a reason, but I just don't know.
Yeah, that language was requested by the counselors at the time when we initially wrote the policy
Okay.
some time back, and I'll go back and
Okay.
follow up with that.
Thanks.
Can we ask that you follow up with them
I
again for
will,
their
yeah.
feedback?
That's all I had. So I move that after Michelle takes a look at those couple things, that we send this to the board for first review.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. It looks like that one was revised in 2018, so that was pretty recent.
It was, yes. It was revised to add the social media component that we had in the social media policy. We wanted it clear in that policy as well.
And I apologize for not catching those questions then.
Okay, so that brings us for first review, policy 4-1, attendance.
This policy has been revised to address a change in the statute regarding the absences of students whose parents are in the military and deployed. this.
Okay, I just have one question. Most, but not all of our policies begin with the board is committed. Can we make that across the board? So that's when she could say the board believes that attendance in school.
Absolutely.
That is all I have. I move
Any
that
other
we,
citizens?
I actually have a comment I'd like to make. Either for this committee or Michelle to take a look at. I've had not a lot, but a handful of students that have talked to me this year about some changes in attendance policies that some districts are considering and some states have moved to, which is around giving kids excused absences for what they're calling mental health days or health days. And I don't know if that's something, Michelle, in our current policy that we want to look at or want to do some research on. But I'd like to kind of continue to get some feedback from our students, and our high school students are the ones that are voicing this to me, in terms of, days in which their parents recognize they're going through a traumatic event, they're having issues at home or in social life, whatever it might be. And how could they have a day or two if they need it? That would be excused. And I wonder if that could be considered a sick day.
I was going to say, I think limiting it to a number of days is probably not a great idea, but we do accept, at my understanding, at all of our schools that a parent can send a note. You don't even need a doctor's note anymore, even for physical sickness. So I think we could probably add mental health to number one on there.
It's just something that has been kind of a growing phenomenon that I wanted to bring to this committee's attention. And not saying we have to make a substantial change to the policy today, but I would like for us to maybe take a look at it.
I would say parent or legal guardian, because we don't know the
They'd have to sign off
circumstances.
on that, yeah.
Right.
And I agree, you'd have
It
to have
says
something
that a
from
written excuse signed by parent or guardian must be
Okay.
presented to the school.
something in writing.
Okay.
And then these are the reasons you can miss school. I have no problem adding something like that to it.
Absolutely.
So with that change, you can send, I move that we send it to the full board for first review.
Would we want the school nurse involved at all? Because I'm thinking about situations where kids might have migraines or other situations that would keep them out of class. Would the school nurse or a guidance counselor?
I would say nurse or counselor.
Okay.
This is something that I think, Michelle, we would need to work with Jared and his team on, and principals, that when we receive notification that there's some follow-up at the school level.
I don't think we need to add nurse or counselor, because in order to miss a day of school, they don't need anything. They don't need to go to a nurse. They don't need to.
I was looking more about
Adding
a
that they
guideline
could- right.
or some protocol
Maybe that's
that
what
when
you're
a
saying.
student returns to campus, that there is someone at that building that's following up with them
Right.
and involved in that situation.
The only reason I mention that is because using migraine as the example, a doctor's note has to be on file in the nurse's office, so that in the event those things happen, it's documented that student has been diagnosed with migraines or a mental health diagnosis. And I think that would be something we might want to consider.
Yeah, I agree. I think whatever would be brought in writing from the parent and or doctor should be filed somewhere. I think what I'm suggesting is that there needs to be an adult on that campus that is having some interaction with that child when they return to school,
Okay.
following up with them.
I think that if the parents want to do that, that's fine, but I don't think we should make the parents put anything with the nurse or.
Well, I know
anything
for
else.
other diagnoses, we have to have that in the nurse's office from the doctor. So I know I did anyway.
I think it depends on if we're talking about a routine absence where I'm sick for, the day I don't feel well, or I'm having a mental health day, a one-off, you wouldn't necessarily need a doctor note. But if it's a regular
I guess
occurrence,
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying, yes.
If it's a diagnosis, then we
Right.
would need that,
Yeah.
just similar to that. But if it's
Yeah.
what the kids have expressed to me is just, it might be a random day where, they have a death in the family and they're this is just an example. The next day, they're really struggling with, social, emotional, whatever, and can that day be considered a sick day or whatever? So I think what Ms. Merrill's speaking of is the difference between a one-off day versus a diagnosis.
Mhm. I mean, because if there's a diagnosis, it seems like there would have to be something in the nurse's office or in their file to support, the days that they need to be absent. Okay, so we had a motion and a second to send this to the full board on November 5th for first review. All those in favor say aye. 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 Okay, policy 4-14, student records.
This policy, like the first one you reviewed on the public records, has a change that's now was made based on state changes to the practice.
Are we going to make references to the new policy on these as well?
Yes.
Okay. The other one too, public records, right?
Mhm.
I have no comment except for the beginning. The board expects that.
Sure.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you. And again, this change came from the state level. Okay, I'll accept a motion in a second.
So moved. I move that we send 4-14 to the board on November 5th for first review.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, last, new policy, electronically stored information retention.
I'm sorry, did we skip 5-8?
Oh,
Parent
we sure
involvement.
did.
What did we skip?
I checked it off. Policy 5-8, parent involvement. Thank you, Michelle.
No problem. This addresses the change in the law regarding access to advanced math.
Oh, this is important.
It's just a notification.
We
It's
get
a
lot of
notification
calls
requirement.
about it.
Yeah. It's a notification that they have to, that they'll be provided it. There's a letter that goes out.
Correct.
It's this.
Okay. I'll accept a motion in a second.
I move that we send 5-8 to the full board for first review at the November 5th meeting.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, new policy, electronically stored information retention.
Yes, this is a proposal that I sent to Mr. Parker, and he's here if you all have any questions. This is to address issues that we've had, and he also believes that it would be helpful to his department in an audit situation. And so this is being recommended by Tech Services for review at the November 5th meeting.
So the same thing about the first sentence. I couldn't come up with one. So good luck there.
Yep.
C, should we also, so we say in accordance with North Carolina public record laws and policy 1-23?
Sure, I can add that.
So I guess the only question I would have is, it says, school system information retained for a minimum of 3 years. Is that a state recommendation, like 3 years, or, because we hold it much longer than 3 years. Yeah, right. So, I think it should just be on record that even though this policy says for a minimum of 3 years, Union County Public Schools has chosen to hold on to information indefinitely. Okay. Okay, I'll accept a motion in a second to take this to the full board for first review.
I move that we send electronically stored information retention new policy to the board for first review on November 5th.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, closing items, action items to the full board. I have policies for second review that need to be approved on November 5th by the full board. Policy 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-18, 1-27, and 5-6 for final review. And then I have policies for first review, policy 1-23, 3-6, 4-1, 4-14, 5-8, and electronically stored information retention. So all of this will go to the Board of Education at our November meeting. That covers everything?
It does, thank you.
Okay. Our next meeting will be on November 19th here at the PDC at 9 a.m. So just pencil that in on your calendars. And I'll accept unless there's any more comments or.
Well, just to clarify, we're a week early for policy from our normal rotation because of the Thanksgiving.
And it's a
holiday.
Tuesday instead of the Wednesday.
Yeah, because we had to try and find the time here.
Very good, thank you. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.